morning, everyone. Happy F3 Friday. I am Faith Suggs, Duke women's basketball graduate, and I currently work at Long Island University as social media director as well as director of basketball operations. I can see you guys are missing my wonderful co-host this great Friday. Shafer Suggs is in the wings watching, of course, but today we have a special show with another friend of the Suggs family. So we're excited for you guys to join in. If you are trickling in, say hello, shoot us a comment, etc. We are happy for you guys to come in. For those of you who are new, we are F3, and our goal is to use our story and our faith to strengthen the family core of our viewers as well as those around us. So for those tuning in, we're extremely thankful for you. If you have your Suggs mugs, shoot us a picture. We know I have a few people who have gotten their Suggs mugs, so we will show you guys that in the upcoming weeks because they have sent us some great selfies. Cool things, updates. We have the website up and running, www.faithfamilyfocus.net, where we have our blogs, bios, and any show you want to get access to. We are currently on our 39th episode of Faith Family Focus, and we are excited for everyone who has been along with us on this journey. A few things. Wednesday was an awesome show. We had a great guest, Bruce Harper, leader in kick returns and yards with the New York Jets, as well as a great friend of the Suggs family. So he was great. He came in and talked to us about his journey from Englewood, New Jersey, as well as his new organization, Heroes and Cool Kids, that is in schools around New Jersey. We're really excited for this upcoming show. We were really happy with and satisfied with Wednesday's show. So we are happy for everyone here. We have Christopher Eubanks, professional tennis player and friend, joining us today. We're going to talk with him a little bit about his journey in our Making of the Champions series, as well as some fun stories he has with Miss Serena Williams and anything he had experiences in his last 3 years of professional tennis. So after this quick break, we will bring Chris on and we will discuss some more stuff. Good morning. Hi, Chris. Happy Friday.
I'm doing well. Happy Friday to you guys.
Yeah. So what's new? What is Chris up to today? Like, talk to us a little bit about, I know we're pre-recording, so those of you who are joining us, Chris and I are on a little early, but talk to us a little bit about what you're doing right now, what you're doing with your career.
So, sure, like everyone else in the world going on, their lives were kind of put at a standstill when everything kind of happened with the pandemic. So as of right now, I think the ATP, which is the governing body of professional tennis, they shut down, I think, in about March. Right. And we've kind of just been at a standstill. We hear they set dates that they consistently push back and push back and push back based on how things are going. But as we stand right now, it looks like the U.S. Open will happen, which is pretty exciting. So I think I have a good chance of be participating in the U.S. Open. They're hoping to create a nice bubble for the players and for the team members of the players so that everyone can kind of travel and, make sure the environment is as safe as possible. Mm-hmm. But right now it's just training. It's training, preparing to hopefully play the U.S. Open. If not, we're hoping to be able to kind of go to Europe. I think in September, things over there are kind of looking a lot better than the U.S. They're going to hold some tournaments. And even if it requires a 14-day quarantine, if that's what we got to do, that's right. What we got to do. So I think everyone's just kind of preparing, mentally, physically to be ready to go the moment the tour resumes.
Right. And tell us a little bit about, okay, so you are from Atlanta, Georgia. Tell us a little bit.
Raised.
You're right. Tell us a little bit about your start. How'd you get into tennis? What's your story?
So Atlanta, for one, is the largest tennis market in the U.S., so one of the largest. And when I came along, I have an older brother who's 13 years older. So when I came along, he was already heavily invested in tennis. My dad worked with my brother day in, day out, every single day after school. And then when I came along, it was just an easy way to get me out the house. So they would take me out there to the courts. My mom would stay home. And then my dad and my brother would go out and they would practice and practice and practice. And then as an energetic kid, as I got some size where I could run and walk and run, my dad put a racket in my hand and then we started from there. So it's literally been all that I know. As far back as I can remember, I've been traveling, playing tennis tournaments. I've been practicing on court with my dad. It's probably some of my earliest memories. And it just kind of went from there. And I think things just kind of took a hold.
Right. Okay. And so I know a year ago or so, you sent me a great video of you when you were little. Tell us a little bit about how important tennis was for your family at a young age.
So My dad got the idea from tennis from his older brother. His older brother was also my godfather. So they took on, I believe, racquetball as just a means to, bond and have fun and be active, and then transitioned it more to tennis. So the tennis started there, and then went to my older cousin, went to my dad, and then things just kind of went from there. So while I come from a rich, tennis city, I don't have a really rich tennis background in my family. It was mainly between my older cousin who played collegiate tennis, my older brother played college tennis, and then I played college tennis and now playing professional. So the lineage, I guess, doesn't go back that far, but it's been, hugely influential in most of the things that have happened in my lifetime and with my family. So it's been pretty cool.
Me. And did you get into any other sports besides tennis at a young age?
No, my dad was pretty strict from the get go of tennis was going to be the sport, and that was that. I remember it was the time I was hell bent on playing basketball. I wanted to play basketball, so there's a gym in Atlanta now called Metro Fitness, was known as Run and Shoot at the time, off Atlanta Metropolitan. So if anyone who knows Atlanta, they know Atlanta Metropolitan. It's a very cultured area. Let's just put it that way. So my dad took me over to Run and Shoot. He went to work out as he always did, and I told him I wanted to play basketball. He said, "Okay, well, if you want to play, why don't you go play with those guys?" Little did I know, my dad had gone over to those guys who I may have been 8 or 9 at the time, probably 13, 14,
Mm-hmm.
and made it clear he wanted them to rough me up a little bit. So we go, we're playing. My dad's working out. He comes back and periodically checks, and I'm playing. I'm calling foul, getting slammed. I'm like, foul, foul, and they're looking at me saying, "There's no fouls here. There's no fouls."
Mm-hmm.
So my dad comes to me then. I'm hot, mad, just angry, and he goes, "So how's basketball coming?" And I just kind of sat there. He goes, "So you want to play tennis?" I said, "Yeah, I want to play tennis." That was the only experience of him entertaining my hoop dreams seriously.
Uh-huh.
But little did I know, and he didn't tell me that until I think months or years later, that he made sure those guys knew what to do. But basketball was a sport is a sport that I love. I love watching. I love going, being right there. But tennis has just been the one that I kind of invested all of my life in since the age of 3, so 2 or 3.
Right.
So it's kind of, I knew it was going to be my best chance.
No, understandable too. That's funny. That's a funny story. So he already had like a whole plan in motion. He was like,
No,
I'm
he knew, and my dad's the type that it's his way or the highway. So to some degree, especially at that young of an age, it wasn't really very much. I I do tend to believe that if I came to him and I said, no, I enjoyed it, I want to keep playing, he probably would have let me play as more of just a
Mhm.
test on if I could handle it. But being a kid who played tennis from 2 to 8, 9, and then playing, having no contact, and then all of a sudden being thrust into a gym in which guys are, 4 years older, slamming you to the ground and saying no fouls.
Mhm.
A lot of kids are probably going to take that and say, you know what, maybe this tennis thing isn't that bad. So
No, we had a very small stint where Shafer Suggs thought that tennis would be for me, and it lasted like one day. But he went out and got
some
like
some some is telling me that it was, for you, it might have been the heat. It might have been it just wasn't a good
enough
mix.
going on. There wasn't enough going on, and it probably was because. So the funny thing is, when he buys into something, he like buys in. So I had like
I
this
can
Serena
see that.
racket that like was like one side was Venus and one side was Serena, and he had like 80 tennis balls. And he had like a little picker upper thing. We went out to that tennis court, and it lasted not at long enough. And I think
You
he
know
realized.
what's really funny, and I feel like a lot of people don't know this, and I think this would be pretty good for your viewers, that tennis is one of the most successful sports for female athletes in terms of prize money. If you look at the Forbes list of highest grossing athletes, top 10, I think you're probably going to have 6 or 7 tennis players in there. And yes, Serena has held the mantle for so long, but even now, Naomi Osaka is coming over and took over the #1 spot, followed by Serena, followed by Madison Keys. So you can just go through the top 10, you'll find over a half of them are tennis players. So I feel like a lot of people don't know that as much, but it's just a really cool thing. He might have been onto something, but I guess you didn't really take it that seriously.
Tried every sport. Yeah, he tried every sport. Um, that one just didn't stick. I'm assuming he's okay with it.
Let's just say it's not for everyone. It's all right.
It's not. I think that also I just was not happy with being outside. Um,
Fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah. No, I'm not an outside athlete. But
The
tell me a
difference
little.
between our parents, one gave you a choice, the other one I had no choice. So from a young age, as far back as I can remember, that's all I knew. So I didn't really have a choice of saying I don't really want to be outside. It's like, no, I do. I've been doing this as I can remember. So Just different approaches.
No, it's funny. I didn't really have a choice for basketball, but that one was like you be active. But we were talking the other day. Tell me a little bit about how awesome tennis is for maybe the youth sport for younger athletes to get into.
So the thing about tennis is there are certain aspects of it that I feel like are very, very unique to individual sports. So from the time, if you can picture a 6 or 7 year old, I played my very first tournament, even in organized tournaments, like tennis players, you have your coaches, but your coaches can't help you in competition. It's
Mm-hmm.
you and it's your opponent. You walk out there, 6 year old kid. I got a bag probably bigger than me. Got my cooler. I'm walking out there. I'm sitting down. The referee is there, does the coin toss, and then they leave unless they're needed. So from that point on, it's responsible for a 6 year old and maybe a 7 year old to figure things out on their own. They warm up together, they start the match together, they keep score. One of the biggest things my dad would tell me when I was young is call the score out before every point, even when you're 6 or 7, because what happens is kids just lose track of it. They
Right.
go, is the score, is it 15 all or is it 30 all or is it 15-40, and you just forget the score. So like little things about problem solving that are so specific to tennis is you step foot out there. In golf, yes, it's an individual sport, but you have your caddy there. Boxing, it's an individual sport, probably one of the, I mean, the I enjoy watching one of the best individual sports there is, but you
Right.
still go to your cornerman every 3 minutes and they can kind of tell you what you're doing wrong, what you should be doing better. In tennis, there is none of that. From the
Right.
age, the first time you step foot on the court, you have to problem solve by yourself, and you have to be very, for one, in control of your emotions, because any type of outburst can cause you points or penalties. So it's a very, very unique, like something that's very unique to tennis. And I never realized how unique it was until I began to talk to other people of other sports who play team sports their entire life. And they say, okay, so, how does your coach help you? I'm like, they don't. They prepare you, but when the time they send you there, it's on you. They go, so you pay a coach, you travel with a coach, you do all this, and they can't help you when you're playing. I go, no, so many of my friends, I couldn't have done that because
Yeah.
it's all on you. There's no one else to blame. You can't blame the teammate. You can't blame the coach. It's all on you. And that's what you got to live with. So to me, I mean, a lot of people like to use it as like a good metaphor for life, a lot between problem solving and figuring things out on your own. You can't rely on someone else. I think that's, in a lot of respects, that's pretty accurate because, like I say, you're out there by yourself. It's up to you to figure it out.
Is that what kind of drew you into tennis even more? That uniqueness and that part of it?
I think so, honestly. I think probably when I got the age of 13 to 14, I actually did start to, think about maybe questioning, like, do I want to play, like, do I want to try another sport as well? I never think about giving up tennis, but do I want to maybe try high school basketball? At that point, I think my dad would have trusted my judgment to say, hey, I really want to try it. And I think he would have given me a little bit of leeway.
Right.
But it's just something about knowing when I step foot on the court, if I lose, it's my fault.
Right.
It's not dependent upon someone else. If I win, it's weird. If I lose, it's my fault. But if I win, everyone, my coaches, everyone, it's all of our, it's all of our, thing we can hold on to or celebration. So we all can take credit for it. So I think that's kind of what I liked. I'm like, I don't want to have to depend on someone else. What if my teammate doesn't have the same work ethic I have? What if they don't have the same drive I have? What if they don't care as much as I do? And if I lose because of something they did, I'm gonna have a problem with it. So tennis, there's none of that. It's we go out here, whoever wants it, more, they're gonna get it. And at some point, I think probably around 14, I was like, no, this one's it.
Yeah, it's funny because my college coach, she was a big tennis player, and like she like everywhere we went, she was like actually pretty good.
Hmm.
She had coach and everything, and she would like play in like her little tournaments and everything. And one thing she used to tell us was like her thing after we lose was, "We win, I lose," and
100%.
and so when you lose, it's always you, like what you have to reflect on, what I did wrong, what I can do better, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. But that was one of her favorite things to say every time we lose. It was almost like a broken record because it was like, oh, we know she's gonna say it. But it's funny that she said that because it's almost like parallel and exact to what she used to say, and she kind of took from tennis. And she used to also tell us in tennis is like you're on your own, like you have to be extremely mentally tough to be in a sport like that.
Yeah,
So tell us a
100%.
little bit about the mental toughness that goes into it. Did you realize that you grew more mentally tough as a younger athlete, or did you kind of come into it as your career went on?
No, you come into it as your career go on, because even being young, you're still having other people kind of do things for you. You're still, you're at least in me, in my case, my dad, prepared, make sure my rackets were ready, make sure, I had all my drinks, I had changing shirts, I had everything I needed was kind of in order. Um, so only thing I had to do was go out there and play. As I got older, naturally you're going to start taking more and more responsibility for yourself. So now it became me at 15, making sure, all right, I got my rackets, I got my drinks, I got string, I got grips, I got everything I needed in order to go out and play as well as I can. And I honestly don't think tennis is such a unique sport because it's so specialized that you literally only associate with so many tennis players go homeschooled from the age of 12. So
Right.
the people that they practice with, or that's their social interaction, they're interacting with other tennis players. It's just a
Hmm.
thing. It's just how, you go to an academy, homeschool,
Hmm.
you're in homeschool with tennis players, you go to outside with tennis players. When you kind of branch out and you see other sports, you get to talk to other people. You realize it's a bit of an anomaly what you have because you're sitting here, you go, you guys can't, solve that problem by yourself. I would talk to some of my friends who would be on the basketball and football team just about, you know, critical thinking or I don't want
Right.
to say critical thinking, but problem solving on their own, just about life instances. And they would come and be like, hey, how do you do this? I'm like, figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
how do you can't even think. What's a W-9? What's a 1090? And just certain things that you can Google and find your answers out. That I feel like most tennis players will be. I don't know what that is. Let me figure it out on my own. But
Yeah.
when you're in a team sport and you have the coaches responsible for kind of delegating and doing the stuff for you, you just go to them and say, "Hey, what's going on? What do we do? What you tell me what the play is, I got you. But outside of that, I'm not really trying to, think of that." So I think because tennis players are so insulated inside of other tennis players, we don't
Hmm.
really see it until we, for me going to college and although I went to high school and I went to regular high school, I was never homeschooled. So I had, outside influences and other friends outside of tennis. You don't realize until you get older and you get more mature and you're like, oh, this is just something I just do, it's just no big deal. And then you talk to other people, they go, oh, man, I could never do that. I could never step foot on a court in
Right.
105 degrees, 90% humidity, and not knowing how long it's going to take. That's the thing about tennis. It can take 50 minutes. It can take, my longest match I played was 3 hours, 33 minutes last year, US Open. So, like, you go on court, you're hoping it's going to be quick, but you don't know. You just got to be able to be like, all right, let's just live in the moment. Let's just go and do what we got to do. So, there's so many elements that I don't think you realize how mentally draining it is or how mentally tough tennis players are until you get around other people and you go, wow, like, okay,
Yeah.
that's unique.
And it's funny, that makes a lot of sense when you think about it. The more you're on your own, the more you are able to get a lot of great qualities in life experiences early on.
Right.
And it is true with team sports, it's easier and not only to rely on other people, but it's also really easy to hide behind
100%. 100%.
mistakes, it's the team mistakes, and it's the only time it really is individual is when it's normally they call it out. I mean, obviously LeBron James is the most criticized athlete in the game, but it's really easy to hide within a team sport. But
It's
let's
funny.
talk
It's
about.
funny. It's a real quick, not to cut you off, but it's funny you said hi, just because I think All the Smoke is one of my favorite podcasts, and they had Al Harrington who played for the Hawks, so I was pretty excited to watch his talk, and he talked about how he got into basketball super late, I think sophomore year of high school, and he said he couldn't catch. He said I could not catch passes, and he played with one of the best point guards in the country who would just throw no look passes right and left, and he couldn't catch. He said so it got to the point where he would literally, not figurative, he would literally hide behind the defender. If they were on the offensive end, once he saw the guard coming down, getting ready to throw a crazy pass, he would hide behind so he wouldn't throw it at him. And then I'm
Hmm.
sitting up here late. So when you said you can hide, I was like, literally and figuratively. You don't want to be seen. You just, if I'm a wide receiver, I don't want to throw the pass. I'm not going to create separation. I'm just going to be like, I don't want
Right.
to drop the pass. So I'm going to get jammed up. I'm going to block.
This
So
is
yeah,
more
it's
on
so,
the
so
court.
true. So,
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah. And another thing is you hide behind. You could hide in the corner. Like if you don't want the ball, you don't have to get the ball. It's a known
100%.
fact. Um,
100%.
even in football, I mean, football obviously you know who's going to get the ball every single play. Everything is
Yeah.
kind of like constructed, and quarterbacks have certain plays, and it's all planned, and it's a lot more analytical than you think it is. But it's with basketball is it's a lot more freedom to hide and freedom to kind of like not be as interactive as you want. Obviously, you'll get taken off the court, but you have the
100%.
opportunity to not be exposed in a
Mm-hmm.
way um, as you do maybe in a one-on-one sport or in football and matchups. So it's
Right.
funny you said that. But let's dive a little bit into, so you chose Georgia Tech and you were the ACC Player of the Year in 2016 and 2017. What was it about Georgia Tech? Obviously, it's in Atlanta, but what was it about Georgia Tech that drew you into it?
Besides the wings, or well, okay. So
You're
coming
funny.
into college, I was not. I was very raw. I was very talented, but I was not the highest rated recruit. I was, I think, before my junior year. Yes, I believe it was before my junior year. I think I might have been 50, 60 in the country recruiting wise. And, when people hear that, I think I was a 3-star, 4-star. When people hear that in other sport, they go, man, that's major respect. And tennis is a little bit different. 3 stars, 4 stars are okay. But on the men's side in tennis, there's only 4.5 scholarships to go to 6 guys that play. And
Okay.
you have a couple reserves. So on the women's side, it's 8 scholarships. So because of Title IX, the men have less. So, in order to, get a scholarship, you got to be pretty good, so I wasn't the highest ranked recruit going. I had a very good summer before my junior year of high school. Played really, really well. And Georgia
Okay.
Tech was one of the first schools that came calling.
Okay.
And I didn't entertain it. I grew up in Atlanta. I grew up watching UGA football. I was like, that's the school I want to go to. You see, red and black. You see Georgia all over the place, and you don't see anything about Georgia Tech. So I grew up wanting to go there. I pretty much, that's where I said I wanted to go. I reached out to the coach, tried to, introduce myself. The coach responded saying, we'll keep an eye out for you. But
Mm-hmm.
after I started to do well, Georgia Tech, they were the first one on me, and they were the first one that said, we want you. We want you. We want to, we think this will be a great fit for you. So I didn't really entertain it because I said, okay, well, if
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech is coming to me, there's going to be some other schools for sure. This
Okay.
is again where my dad kind of took charge, and we had a visit. I think an unofficial visit at Georgia Tech. We sat down in the coach with the office. We sat in the office with the coach, and the coach said, "Listen, we want you, but come. I believe the date was July 1st. We can begin to start talking to other players. Your scholarship might not be there. But this is something we really want to have you. We think you can do some great things here."
Right.
So I got up from the meeting. I felt pretty confident. I said, I think I can go to Georgia Tech, but I want to see what other schools are out there. There were only maybe 6 schools recruiting me at the time. I think Tennessee was one, Ohio State was another, Alabama kinda. So I saw big name schools and I got excited. I said, well, let's wait this out. Let's see. We get up from the meeting, we get in the car, and my dad goes, July 1st, you're gonna call Kenny Thorne and you're gonna tell him you come to Georgia Tech. Kenny was the coach. And I said, Dad, like if he's willing to offer right now, no one's gonna commit by July 1st. Like no one commits that fast. He said, Chris, I don't want to hear what you're saying. You're gonna call him, you're gonna commit, and that's that. So lo and behold, July 1st comes. My dad comes to me. He goes, "Did you call Kenny?" I said, "No, I didn't call him yet." He just gets up and walks away. I think July 2nd comes. "Did you call? You call the coach yet?" No, no, didn't call him. Gets up, walks away. I think probably like July 5th or something like that. July 6th. I sent the coach an email committing. And then I went to my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad, I think I want to go practice down at Tech today." One of the guys who was on the team at the time, Nathan Rackett, who ended up being like my mentor on the team,
Mm-hmm.
asked me if I wanted to practice. I told him, yeah. I said, so let's do it. We did it, I think, July 5th. I sent the coach the email that morning. They responded. Everything was all good. We get to the tennis center. My dad's not really talking because he thinks I should have committed already. He wants to make sure like everything's going to be all right. So we walk in the tennis center. The assistant coach comes from the back, clapping, comes in, gives me a hug. My dad is sitting there frozen. The player, Nathan, comes to me, gives me a hug, says, "Welcome to the family." My
Mm-hmm.
dad's looking. He's so confused, looking around. And then I looked at him and I just told him, I said, "I committed this morning." He got this big smile on his face and he was just like, "Oh man, this is good. Yeah, this is my boy. This is my boy." So he kind of relaxed a little bit.
Right.
But to get back to what made Tech so special, I felt like having the opportunity to be from Atlanta and get to play in downtown Atlanta and play where I know my family and friends will be able to come, people I went to high school with, people I was in college with, I've known since middle school, coming to support is something not many people get to have. And to be able to do that for a coach who I felt like knew how to develop my game. This is a coach who played professional tennis, played at Georgia Tech, was an All-American there. So I knew playing for a coach who went there, he wasn't going to ask me to do something he didn't already go through. You have a lot of coaches who might go to a school and coach at a school they weren't a part of. He knew how strenuous Georgia Tech could be academically. So if there were certain days at practice in which I'd be like, I've had some tests, I don't really feel it today, he'd be like, go out here, get some rest, come back tomorrow fresh and ready to go. Because he understood he was an industrial engineer. So
Okay.
having all of those things combined and his knowledge of tennis and knowing that I felt like he would develop my game into the best player that I could be after college. He wasn't focused on making sure I won my freshman year or I won my sophomore year or I won my junior year. He was like, we want to make you a better player when you leave than when you came in. And we want every year to get better and better. He had
Mm-hmm.
a different outlook, a different strategy, and a different approach that other coaches had. And I said, this is where I feel the most comfortable. So then it was a no-brainer.
Right. And do you think you're happy with your decision? No regrets.
100%. Wouldn't change a thing. I maybe would take a couple more visits just to see what other schools would be like. Ohio State offered a visit. I was kind of like, oh man, I'd love to just go up there and just see what it's about. But there's
Right.
no doubt in my mind I was going to go anywhere else but Georgia Tech. It was just everything just felt right. I felt like I was going to become a far better player. I knew I would come in and have a chance to play. And then once I got in the lineup and I started at the top of the lineup, things just kind of took off.
Right. So it's funny because my experience is once I started my recruiting, April came. I took my visit to Duke. I left Duke. I committed the next day. And I probably had like 5 more visits to do. And Devin was so upset. Like, yo, like we were supposed to go to.
Did he want to go?
He wanted to go to Stanford. We were supposed to go to Stanford next week. Like,
Oh my goodness.
why couldn't you? And I was just like, I am first of all done with this process because this process is like long winded. It takes forever. So many phone calls you don't want to have to make. Like I was
Oh
over
man,
it.
that was the toughest part. Luckily, not that many schools recruited me that seriously that I felt the obligation to say, let me let this coach know. Like people reached out, I kind of responded. We said, we'll see if we can set up a visit. I took my
Right.
visit to Tech after I committed, so it wasn't even like I didn't even need to see anything. I had gone on campus, I had practiced. I was like, this is where I want to be. I want to live in downtown Atlanta, and I want to be able to play in front of my family and friends. So
Right.
that's pretty crazy. Stanford, ooh, boy, that's clear cross country, totally different.
Totally different faith. Tell us a little bit about your 4 or 3 years, right? You were only you left early.
Yeah,
Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about those 3 years. What was your experience like? Any memories?
So my freshman year, I came in and I started off playing number 2 in our lineup, which is pretty good for a freshman to come in at a Power Five conference and be playing that high in the lineup. And then I think about 7 matches. I think I went 7-0 at the number 2 spot, moved up to number 1, and that's where things got a little bit different. I was winning a lot at number 2. I started feeling confident, feeling good about my game, and then around number 1, I'm taking a number like few losses. Not a few. I took a good amount of losses. I think I was like 7-11 at the number 1 spot, but it was different because no matter what school you play, doesn't matter how low level or how high level the schools are, their number 1 player is always good.
Right.
There's not a bad number 1 in the country. You could go to a D2 and D3 school. Their NAI, their number 1 player, they found someone who can play. So every match was a battle. So I'm losing a lot of close matches. I'm winning a couple, win 1, lose 2, win 1, lose 1. It wasn't very consistent.
Right.
And I just I was like, man, is this really going to be my college career? And then I think I had a very good summer of training. I came back in my sophomore year. To be honest, I have no idea what happened. I think I became just more confident of saying, I'm not this, bright-eyed, green freshman who's just happy to be here. I'm like, no, I played this guy last year. I lost to him. I want to win now. This guy isn't, these guys aren't as, heralded as I thought. So I think I just had a different level of confidence. So from freshman year to sophomore year, like I said, I was 7-11 at the number 1 spot freshman year, and then went 16-2 my sophomore year. It's like every match that I lost, I think I won, and I can still remember I knew it was. I can almost remember every loss from my college career, but the couple that happened in my sophomore year, I definitely can remember them because they stung pretty bad. Because at that point, I'm feeling like I'm not supposed to lose. Like, what's going on? Then transitioned to my junior year. I played a few professional events that summer. I think I got my first time getting my professional ranking. Went back to college my junior year, and then just picked up where I left off. I think I went 17-2. Lost 2 matches, won a lot. A quarterfinal NCAAs, lost to the guy who eventually won it. And it's funny, going into the NCAA tournament, if you're an American and you win NCAAs, you get an automatic bid into the U.S. Open. It's just how it works. So I had told my teammates had started to see my success, and I mean, to them, I'm still the same guy I came in with freshman year. So they're kind of looking at him, but they're like, man, Chris he's playing well. Like, he might not come back to school. And that's something I didn't even think about. I was like, guys, come on. And as the season began, it kept going and going. I told everyone, I said, listen, if I win NCAAs, I'm not coming back. I said, that's just how it is. So the guys were cheering for me during the NCAA tournament, but they were also kind of like, you really want him to come back. I lose in the quarters in a tough battle. So I left. It was actually held at UGA. It was held in Athens. So I left that match and I said, well, coming back to school for my senior year, I'm going to finish. I'm going to get my degree. That's that. I played a pro tournament, I think about 3 or 4 weeks later, and won it. And then the next week, I finaled it. They had two events back to back at the same location, both professional, $25,000 professional events. I won the first one, finaled the second one. So if a college guy wins one round at a pro event, you're like, man, that guy can play. If he wins one, you're like, all right, this guy's one of the best in college. I did back to back weeks where I won and final. So at that point, I'm kind of like, it's all right, no big deal, but still going back to school.
Mm-hmm.
I get a wild card into a professional event they hold in Atlanta, which is one of the biggest in the world. and I quarterfinal. I went 2 rounds. I beat a guy who now is sitting at like 21 in the world. At the time, I think he was like 100. And then my second round, I beat a guy who was like 55 in the world.
Okay.
So at that point, I was kind of like, all right, might need to reconsider, but there's a lot going on. I'm playing well because I'm playing in my hometown. I realized that when you're playing on tour, you're traveling to different countries. You're not playing as well because you're not playing in front of family and friends every single match.
Right.
So I had to take everything, like soak everything up. And I was like, all right, well, I play well, but it still doesn't mean I should go pro. I play a tournament the next, I think probably like a month later in Cincinnati, where I beat two guys who were top 100. And then because of that, because of my entire summer, I was granted a wild card to the U.S. Open. Once that happened, I kind of knew, all right, the reason I said I was going to leave if I went NCAA was because I was going to have the chance to play the U.S. Open. Now I have that chance, just a different route. The money at that point, I'm looking at, I'm like, if in order to go back to school, I cannot accept this money. I believe that summer I won roughly 70,000 in prize money, 80,000 maybe. And at that time, as an amateur, you can only take your expenses. Well, once I found out I got the wild card to the U.S. Open, I said, all right, I might need to go pro because this is money that I could use to jumpstart my career. So after the U.S. Open, kind of, I played. I got absolutely crushed. I had no business being on the court. I was so like nervous. I think about 2 weeks went by, and I kind of let everything calm down. I'm meeting with agents in New York as I'm thinking I might go pro, and I kind of calmed down. And I told my coach, my college coach, I said, listen, I'm thinking about going pro. He said, the only thing I'm going to ask of you is just to not make the decision while you're in New York, while you're here at the U.S. Open, because the lights are so big. Everyone is telling you how great you are. Just let things calm down and then go back and think about the decision. I go home. My decision didn't change. I said, I'm going. Like, I just knew it at that time. So I called him. I said, listen, I just want to let you know, thank you for everything. But I am going to go pro. I appreciate you for everything you've done. I'm still going to pace in Atlanta. I'm still going to be around. You can't get rid of me that easily. He was 100% supportive of my decision. He completely understood. And we've still, even to this day, remained just like this. So it was a very tough call to make because I knew obviously what was going to be said. Mm-hmm. But I felt like it was the best decision for me. He agreed. And he's just been happy to see my success since.
Yeah, and it's interesting because tennis is different. Your ability to kind of be intertwined with the professional level in comparison to
and still be exactly. It would be, I mean, to some degree, it'd be like, if the top, I guess the top, USA college basketball players can go and scrimmage against, USA basketball for real during the Olympics, and then and the only thing is like what I did actually counted, so it would be like, you throw a college player, as a reserve on the dream team or an Olympic team and say, go out there and get points. Like it counts for your overall, Olympic record, so it still can come back to college afterwards if they choose to. So it's very, very unique. But yeah, it's a lot different than a lot of other sports.
Right. And did you get your degree?
Nope. I am about 23 hours short. So I'm either one monster semester or two normal semesters. I actually looked at possibly taking some classes during the pandemic, but I think it's just kind of kept getting sidetracked. They kept setting dates. Oh, we're going to start at this date. Okay, prepare. No, we're going to start it a month later. So I just I called it. I said, when I'm able to actually go back, be in class and do it the right way, that's how I'm going to do it. People have offered, why don't you take online classes at another school and transfer it over? I said, I started my degree at Georgia Tech. I'm going to finish it at Georgia Tech. I don't want another school's name on it. So,
yeah. No, I understand that. It's great, though, that you have the mindset to go back. We had a NFL player, Bobby Jackson, on our show, and he went back, 20, 30, 40 years later to get his degree after his career. Yeah, so pretty awesome.
Wow, bravo to him.
Yeah, you're not the only person we've discussed something like that with. Tell us a little bit about your experience at Georgia Tech as a Black athlete. So I know you're in Atlanta. Me, as someone who's on the outside of tennis, I was not, with my Black friends, my Black experience was not entwined as tennis as much as football, basketball. Tell us a little bit about 100%. That.
So what's really funny is I can remember my freshman year, we would work out in the same facility as the basketball team. I'm sure you know at Duke, different sports will share facilities. Right. We had the same strength and conditioning coach as the basketball team. But the thing is, he cared about both of us. Granted, he came in for basketball, but he wasn't the guy who came in and said, these are just tennis players. He took extreme care of us. He wanted to make sure we were as good as we could be. So we would work out in the same gym, and the basketball team would be in there as we're walking in. They'd be leaving out. And I looked at one of my teammates. I was like, you guys don't say anything. Like y'all just, don't really. And he goes, no, man, they're basketball. Like, they're, I guess had the idea of like, they're too good. So I was like, screw that, man. Like if there was a guy on the basketball team that I had a class with, I was sitting next to him like, hey, this is all right. We would start talking. We formed a pretty much a bond, a relationship with those guys. And I did the same with football. I did the same with track and field. It was just, I didn't stay, inside the bubble of, we're the tennis team. I was the only black guy on the tennis team. So if I wanted to talk about what was out during that time, if I wanted to talk about No Label 2 and Fight Night and all this other stuff with Migos or a different type of music, I'm not going to talk to my teammates about it because I understand like they probably wouldn't understand. So we would talk to the basketball, football guys. And then it's funny, that was kind of my freshman year. Sophomore year, I started to notice things on my own. My teammates are kind of talking to the basketball players on their own. So I'm kind of like, so I came here, there was no association. Now because I walk in the weight room,
Right.
and I go and I say what's up to like 4 of the basketball guys, and I got like 2 guys with me. Everyone will say what's up. Then everything kind of starts to roll after that. So I think there was a big divide, and I don't want to say it was solely racial, but I think that sports just associate with their sport. It's baseball associates with baseball, tennis was with tennis, football and basketball, they kind of intermingle because they're the 2 big sports on campus. That's just how it always, they live in the same dorms. We live in West Campus, away from any other sports besides like golf. So I kind of was just like, no, man, like there's no reason we can work out in the same facilities, guys, and we all can't like, walk over to the athletic association together if we're on the same path. There's no reason I can't give these guys a ride or stuff like that. So things kind of became more intertwined, I think, after I got there and I got to be able to like, bridge a little bit of a gap to the point where I felt like everyone was just, it didn't feel weird. Everyone was just kind of open and just being like, hey, man, we would sit with basketball guys for lunch. We would talk about the strength coach, just, make jokes and make conversation to the point where everything just felt normal, felt the way it should. So being there, I never really felt that. I also did a really good job of associating with the regular black community at Tech because I had friends who I had gone to high school with who would keep me up to date on what's going on outside of athletics. How there's the date auction tonight. What's the date auction? Oh, why don't you come and hang out? So I got to meet friends who were in athletics, friends out of athletics, black, white, everybody. But I still kind of stayed true to who I was, and that was a really cool thing that I thought like kind of having a little bit of everything, kind of have my hand in a lot of different places.
Yeah, and that's neat. It's funny because I went to Duke, which was predominantly white and predominantly Asian now. So a lot of the athletes were the only part of the only black population at school. So that bond between football, basketball, also went to track, was sports predominantly black people, and then
100%.
Because baseball would have the one black kid, and then we connected with that black kid. So it's funny how you say that because I understand completely.
It was the exact same thing. I was the black kid on the tennis team. That's just how it went.
Yeah.
But I also think like being and not to come across as like arrogant, but I think being good helped because I believe that no matter your sport, every athlete respects success. It doesn't matter what sport you are. You could be an equestrian, you could be a swim and dive, you can be track and field, football, basketball. If you're good at your sport and you're one of the best in the country, the other athletes around are going to take notice and they're going to have respect. So it got to the point where I knew, some of the football guys would come check out tennis matches and I would come into the training room and I would even to this day, some of them, every time they see me is what's up, GOAT? Hey, GOAT. It wasn't even about like my sport. It was just, no, that dude's good. He plays tennis, but he's good. Like so respect also, I feel like helps, bridge the gap to allow everyone to kind of see each other as people, not just, oh, that's a tennis player.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, as college athletes, we're also caught up in our own schedule, but who's doing well, who is the best in their sport. We started in my experience, we started going to more matches. So my roommates, my senior year, was a basketball player, the only black woman on the lacrosse team, and then a black woman from track and field. So we all were like different environments.
So you would support each other.
So I got a lot of visibility to lacrosse, which I had not had my first years. I had a lot of visibility to track meets, right, that I didn't go to because it was hot outside. So it was like you kind of step out more and more, and you get to meet more people, and then their teammates, and you see their teammates, and you have classes with them. So I understand 100% you say. It's kind of great though because black people kind of create that bridge amongst the sports.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about Arthur Ashe, how you look up to Arthur Ashe, the story, your experience with it. Kind of give our viewers a little bit of mindset about what you've done with it.
Yeah, so Arthur Ashe, for those who don't know, was the first African American tennis player to win a Grand Slam male. I believe Althea Gibson was before him, but the first African American male to win Grand Slam in the Open era, which started in 1968. He won the 1968 U.S. Open, and went on to be heralded as an all-time great. But not just that as a tennis player, but also as a great humanitarian philanthropist. He did so much work to try to help end apartheid in South Africa. He's just been a superhuman, to put it lightly. But I think my junior year, I got a call from the lady who was the president of the USTA at the time, named Katrina Adams, African American female, played professional tennis, was, I believe, an All-American at Northwestern, and was the first person to hold the office of USTA president for 2 consecutive terms. She called me. She said, "Chris, I've been some people have reached out to me because they want to do an Arthur Ashe virtual reality documentary, but they want to have an actual tennis player portray him. Would you be interested?" I said yes on the spot. I didn't need any more info. Tell me where you need me. I'll be there. So then she puts me in contact with the director of the film. We were able to coordinate schedules. And after the U.S. Open that summer in 2017, I came back up and we shot at Forest Hills, which is the old grounds of the U.S. Open. Everything from wooden rackets to short shorts to all whites. We were able to simulate the match point of the 1968 U.S. Open and just kind of talk about, I think it's about a 10 to 15 minute virtual reality film that kind of highlights his struggle during that time between getting asked, racially insensitive questions by reporters before he's getting ready to play, to then having to go out there and play and stay as even keeled as possible. So it was a really, really cool honor. And when I actually get to watch it back a little bit, just me, I kind of cringe. I think I've seen it back maybe like 3 times. And it's cool seeing the virtual reality with the goggles and looking around and being able to see the entire point of what, I helped put together. Just me being how I am, I see myself and I'm like, man, I should have done that better. I should have done that differently. Why didn't I do it this way? Like, I set my lines. Like, I felt like I could have been more convincing with my lines, and just being very critical of myself. But all in all, when I kind of take a step back and I look at it, I go, man, that was a really cool opportunity.
Right. No, it is. It's really cool. Not a lot of people get that experience. But
100%.
Yeah, and so talk to us a little bit about we talk Arthur Ashe, so we can't not talk about Serena Williams.
Obviously.
Let's talk about the GOAT.
Obviously.
Let's talk about your experience, how it came about. Here's this photo right here. Give us the rundown with Chris and Serena Williams.
So I'll start off with this. I personally think she's the greatest tennis player of all time. A lot of people try to designate, the greatest female tennis player of all time. Tennis, sports in general, everything is relative. It's relative to who your competition is. So Serena's a woman, so she plays women. Roger Federer's a male, so he plays men. Like, that's just how it works. But if you're looking at the most accomplished and the most decorated tennis player, she has 23 singles Grand Slams. I believe probably 11 or something doubles. I don't know how many mixed doubles, and I think 2 gold medals. There's not another tennis player that has done what she's done. So she is the greatest tennis player to walk the face of the earth. But in terms of how I was able to form, I guess I'll call it a relationship with her, was one of the guys I looked up to growing up in Atlanta is her hitting partner. So he travels around the world. He trains with her every single day. They go after it. And he's always been like a big brother to me since I think back at tennis. I always know Jameer has always been the guy that I looked up to, because he was the guy that did homeschool and moved to Florida and trained at these academies, was number 2 in the world juniors, and then went on to play, was an All-American at Virginia, was ranked number 1 in the country in singles and doubles, and played in the U.S. Open. He was my guy. I was like, man, Jameer, like, anytime he would come back to town and he'd be able to practice with me, I thought it was like an honor. So as I got older and older, I started to, do better and better. We've always been close, but because we're at the same tournaments as he's with Serena, he would come, he'd watch my practices, he would practice with me when I needed, and he would kind of watch my matches. And then after I qualified into the Australian Open last year, so 2019, he and Serena's coach, Patrick Mouratoglou, reached out and they said, hey, man, would you want to practice with Serena tomorrow? Done. You tell me where, you tell me what court. I'll be there an hour early. I'm not going to show up late. I'll hit it exactly how she wants it. So they just
Right.
kind of laughed. They said, no, like, just come tomorrow, 10. We'll be on, I think we hit on Margaret Court, which is the second largest stadium in Australia at the Australian Open. I was there, I think, probably 45 minutes early, just waiting, just waiting. So we getting out there at 10. I think I'm out there probably like, honestly, like 9:45, just warming up, making sure everything is ready. She, I think, has booked the court for like 2 or 3 hours. And she strolled in, I think, probably like 10:15, 10:20. And we got out there. She goes, "Hi, Chris. Like, congrats on qualifying in." So I'm kind of frozen. I'm like, "Oh, like she knows that I qualified in." Like, obviously she knows, but I'm just kind of shocked at the fact. And then we go on. We have a great practice. I asked Jameer. I go, "Do you think I can get a picture?" He's like, "Yeah, man, just ask." So I asked her, I was like, "Serena, can I get a picture?" She was like, "Absolutely, no problem." We took a picture, and it was still pretty cool. And then fast forward to I believe the French Open, which comes after Australia.
Uh-huh.
I go there and she sees me. She's speaking. "Hey, Chris, when did you play?" She's kind of checking in. How are things going? I'm talking to her, and I'm like, oh, at that point, I'm kind of starting to feel myself. I'm like, Serena, she knows my name. She's checking on my results. This is great. Then we go on to, I think we probably maybe practice together another time before then, and then last off season, which would be December, Serena's coach Patrick put together an off season camp where it was myself, Serena Williams, Coco Gauff, um, and a couple of his younger juniors, Olga Rune, and like Marius Copil, a few other players.
Mm.
And he didn't want it to just be an off-season camp. He wanted it to be an all-around experience. And if you know Patrick, that just falls right in line to how he is. So he put together, we had Sean T, who's the Insanity
Yep.
workout. If anyone who's done Insanity, you definitely know Sean T. And we would practice in the morning. We'd have fun team building things at evening. We had an amazing race, and I was on Serena's team. Luckily, we won, obviously, because she was going to make sure, even if she had to break some rules, that we were going to win. Her daughter actually ran in the winning ticket, so Olympia was a part of the team. And then we would practice, the next day, and we would have one of the nights we had a karaoke night. And we
Mm-hmm.
get on stage, and I do I don't know what song I wanted to do, but I think I got up there and I did Redbone by Childish Gambino. And I come
Mm-hmm.
down, I'm talking to Jameer about it, and Serena's next to Jameer, and I go, man, like I wish somebody around here would like Destiny. Like I love Destiny's Child, and you know it about me. Like I love like old '90s R&B. So yeah, I mentioned something to I think Jameer's girlfriend, and I said, man, this is the song I want to do. And I think it was Say My Name or Cater to You. I think it was Cater to You.
Right.
So Serena looks at my phone and she goes, "If you do that song, I'll get up there with you."
Mm-hmm.
Done. I went over to the DJ. I was like, "This is the song we doing. We doing that next. Like, go ahead, get it ready, get it ready, get it ready." So we get up there, myself, Jameer's girlfriend Jordan, and Serena. We get up there. We do Cater to You. Serena's obviously.
Yep, we got
Can
you.
you
Keep
hear me?
going. Mm-hmm.
You're perfect. So we get on stage. We do the song. We had a blast, and then we ended the entire camp. It was probably I think a 10-day thing. The last night we had Shanti put together a dance routine for myself, Serena, Coco. I think it was like 7 of us up there, and we went through and we did a great dance routine. We had to rehearse almost every single day, so I think that was really where we got to see each other outside of tennis. So we were laughing and joking, and she was just a joy to be around, just an all around great person. And actually, I think either this weekend or next, I'm going to take the trip 2 hours to Jupiter to try to get a practice in with her. I talked to Jameer. I said, man, I really want to come down, maybe get another hit in with her. Her practices are so focused. You have to be so dialed in order to be on the court with her. But I
Right.
said, I think that'll be good for me. So I think I'm gonna try to get down there and get another hit in. Hopefully, our relationship is as tight as I think it is. She doesn't, kick me off the court, but I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit, but a little bit more, because I remember I talked to you around the time when you got to practice and hit with her. Tell us about the amount of focus and seriousness and excellence that she demands within her practice settings.
What's incredible is you step foot on the court with her and you automatically feel this aura that's like, okay, I have to be on my best today. I
Yeah.
have to be ready to go today. I can't take any ball off, because the thing about her is, and Jameer's even said, he started with her, I think, right after she had her daughter Olympia, and she hadn't touched her racket in I don't know how long, maybe a month or two. I don't know the exact time frame, but he goes out there. He's never met her. This is his first time, kind of almost like his audition.
Mm-hmm.
He said he goes out there. She does not miss a ball for 10 minutes starting off, and she has not been playing
Mm-hmm.
tennis. So he's a bit kind of like, wow, okay, like this is different. She hasn't been playing tennis at all, and she's so dialed in. So it kind of heightened his level. And was one of the best players in the world, but in his own right. So when I stepped foot on it, I knew what to expect because I had heard him talk about what it's like to practice with her. The practices don't even have to be as long, but you are so drained afterwards because of the focus in which you're having on every single ball that comes across the net, especially with me because I had never met her the first time we hit. So I didn't want her to see me and think this guy can't play, obviously. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm focused so hard. I can almost read the numbers on the ball as it's coming at me. I'm looking so hard at making sure, okay, put the ball there, do what I got to do. Don't hit it too far away from her. Don't shank it. Like keep it right where she likes it, and we can have a good practice. We hit for I think an hour 15, and I felt like I had played 3 hours. Mentally, I
Mm-hmm.
was done. Physically, my legs were on fire, and she's just strolling, just like that's just normal. It's normal everyday life for her. Just a normal hit for her. And I'm like, my God, like this is it's a completely different level in which you just assume when I step out there and I'm practicing with some of my friends, it's really puts things in perspective of like, okay, I see how you became the greatest tennis player of all time. I
Yeah.
see it. It makes total sense now. So that's probably the biggest thing that you feel when you're on court. You go, I have to be dialed in, and if I'm not, I should not be on the court. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a totally different level of focus and totally different level of physicality. And like I say, it's part of the reason I'm going to try to get down there before the U.S. Open to try to get another, I guess, a mental, focus session in with her on court and kind of hopefully go at it.
Right. And well, we're coming up on our last 3 minutes. I'm sure you didn't even realize it went by that fast because you
No, I
were
didn't. You told me 55 minutes. I got a little nervous for a second.
Let's talk about any advice you have for young athletes in tennis, that you wish you had known during your time period.
So the biggest thing I could say and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It won't even necessarily apply specifically to tennis, but I feel like at least in tennis there were a lot of tennis players that fizzled out and peaked at 14 or
Mm-hmm.
13 or 15. And I feel like those players that were the best then sometimes tend to fall to the wayside because they either don't work on getting better out of fear of dropping in rankings or dropping in success. And the best thing I can say is do, in terms of your training, do what is going to make you a better player, your best player when you're 17 and 18, as opposed to just trying to be the best you can when you're 13 and 14. Because I knew so many players, especially in tennis, that you thought were going to be Grand Slam champions when they were 14. But because they grew stagnant in their development, their game style was not conducive to someone who was going to be good at 18. Their game style was someone who's going to be good at 14. And that's where it stopped.
Right.
So they started to have less and less success because they didn't want to, take the risk. Right? To some degree, I guess you could look at it as a risk. But whatever your sport is, you see the best player. You can find the best players in the world who do that. Emulate what they're doing as long as it relates close to you, and say, all right, if this is what I need to do to be the best when I'm 18, yeah, I could probably be the best when I was 14 if I only do it this way. But that's not what I'm trying to be. If I'm a basketball player and I know I can go right on everybody and no one can stop me when I finish on my right, but I don't want to practice going left because I might get ripped. Those are things you have to do so that by the time you've mastered it and you get, toward that threshold of going to college, you are a far better player than your peers were who were peaking at 13 or 14. You could then say, all right, this is where I need to be, and this is what's going to make me the better player, not just now, but even, long term, and continue to follow that thought process of, progressing and not just growing stagnant in where you are.
Yep. No, 100%. I agree with you. We love getting the little bits of advice from everybody who joins us. We always get some new ones. So yours was definitely different as well. But we're so thankful for you joining us. We hope this show helped a lot of people. It's definitely airing on Friday morning as well at 9:03 a.m. But Chris, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, no problem. Pleasure was mine.
All right. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us this wonderful morning. We're so thankful for those who stopped by to discuss with us all this craziness, as well as continuing Making You a Champion. We'll see you on Monday for Making You a Champion series to continue. Thank you, Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and out of Phoenix, Arizona, our key platform, E360 TV. Again, most importantly, this is Faith Family Focus, where we want to use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others and strengthen their own family core. And as well, of course, our slogan, we leave you with let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love. Everyone have a blessed day and wear your mask.